paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
Were you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strixhaven, the university with 5 different colleges, all corresponding to guild colors, but this is not Ravnica. These guilds are very different. In fact, they're not guilds. They're colleges at the University of Strixhaven, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is all the cards in Strixhaven. It is time for the set review. I'm Corbin Hostler.
So, like, they're not guilds. So if I'm a planeswalker and I shift and I transform the world around me, whatever, I go to Ravnica, and then I fill out a form, or in Azoria's case, I fill out a lot of forms, whatever. But like, if I apply to a guild, they're like, oh, cool, you want to be part of our guild? You're in. And then if I go to Strixhaven, they're like, cool, give us $30,000 of whatever our money is,
And you'll get in for a semester.
Then you can be. Here's your room and board. And here's your you're only allowed X amount of alcohol in your room, and like the curfew is 10 p.m. And
Dude,
so like what?
Imagine taking out like $75,000 in loans to go major in Lorehold. And your parents are like so embarrassed.
Well, that's why we brought in an expert. We brought in an expert tonight. I'm Corbin, joined as always by Jason and DJ. But tonight we have a true expert in everything you're going to want to know.
And everything
about
Lorehold.
Strixhaven. That's right. It is Alex Kessler, the host of the Modern Masters podcast and YouTube channel. Kess everywhere on the internet. Kess Wiley. You can find them on Twitch as well. Kess, how's it going tonight, man?
It's good. It's good. I mean, the point I'd make towards, I mean, if you're choosing between Lorehold and Boros is like military conscription, where like you could choose to join the army in the real world, or you can go to college and pay $30,000. And often the later choice is what's chosen. So there's bad on all sides. Also, Boros is like actively boring, and Lorehold is the best representation of red.
That's
white
a good
mechanics
point,
we've
because they
ever
could have
seen.
made Lorehold like the ROTC of Strixhaven College, and instead they made them Hufflepuff, which is it's just delightful.
No. Witherbloom is Hufflepuff. They're like good at gardening. They get high together. They made lots of shroom hookups. Lorehold's they're Indiana Jones. They're here to they're
Indiana Jones, you say?
the
Wow.
mummy. Yeah, they go to tombs and they like steal artifacts and put them in their own museum, and then 300 years later.
If you're going to suck up to our editor, you can't say that Indiana Jones is a thief.
Yep.
That's some editor. That's some JJ lore. Just
Wait,
as
is
a
it?
head up.
I didn't know this. JJ has a thing about Indiana Jones.
It's because of the Hobby Lobby connection.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I forgot. How could that slip my mind?
They're Brendan Fraser. They're the Brendan Fraser from The Mummy. How about that? He's more very blatantly a criminal.
The guy objectively messes up a lot of stuff in that movie. Just saying. Well, that's
that over whatever like using grammar correctly that Silverquill is doing.
I mean, it is interesting that Lorehold, it feels like they were like, we really want to make Boros feel different. And credit to them, they did a great job. And then they said, we really want to make the green-blue one feel exactly like Simic. So what do we do? +1 counters. Doubling counters. What does black-white do? Oh, they're big on rules. Come on.
Have you ever met a real-life Quandrix? It doesn't happen. Nobody's like all John Nash, math is beautiful. Like, if you're majoring in math, you're miserable. You don't have time to go be creative.
Nobody's met somebody from Quandrix because they've never left their house, right? Like,
I do think some of it's going to be like when you play limited or you play them in actuality, they'll feel different. Like, because that's what today's Borrow article said, right? Like Silverquill is like the Boros of the set. They're meant like they have the Lone Lion or whatever, where it's 1 mana, 2/3 if you play a spell that turn versus.
It's like tempo. They get cheap creatures and they got like all of the sets removal.
And then they have like a bunch of pump spells, right? They have like all the 1 mana +2/+2s and all that stuff. So they're like, when you're playing limited, they're supposed to be the aggro deck where like thematically they're the like rich bad guys is not very different than what Orzhov's doing.
Exactly. But I mean, that's cool. Limited is something that I guess I'll get to experience via MTG Arena, but we'll see if they feel different in gameplay than the guilds have in every trip to Ravnica. Because that's one of the great parts of Ravnica is that the guilds play out similarly, even with different mechanics over set to set, right? They did such a great job establishing an identity, both mechanically and
yes. Who can forget Transmute and Cypher? Two beautifully connected mechanics.
I love Transmute all day long. Cypher's garbage. I can't.
Cypher was a bit of a swing and a miss. I'll give you that one.
That was them like not being able to get grind to work, right? Like they got like 4/5 through development, and then like they're like, milling for 4 lands ends up not doing anything because it's just counting to 17. Let's change this mechanic.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Well, tonight we're going to talk all about what there is to offer in Strixhaven. It is time for the set review. So we'll start right at the top with the most expensive card, Jazzy Oracle of Archiveos. It's got a lot of words. It's a 5/5 for 8 mana. It's got a backside green sorcery that either costs 3 or 4 mana, depending on which preview you believe. Both official
4
previews, by the way.
It's 4.
And it'll be 4 in printing. It was a digital error, not a...
Yeah, I'll give them that one. That's a mistake. That's just, the marketing team got handed a different file than whatever file went to the printer. But this set,
but they also switched the 2 arts of the like.
That's
remember
what I was gonna say.
Last week, I went on a short rant about how employees of card stores would get the arts to the Mystical Archive Japanese cards mixed up because they do not exist in English. I was like, you'll order these from like your local game store or whatever store on TCG Player you buy them from, and then you'll get the wrong one because somebody didn't realize pulling it. I just didn't know that person would be Wizards.
That is actually, I'd kind of forgotten about that little mini rant, DJ, but that is hilarious. You did nail it.
You got 2 chances to screw it up. You could list it wrong and you could pull it wrong.
That's true.
Like
Wizards this set is I'm assuming that this comes down to pandemic, but we don't know, right? For all we know, in the backside, Wizards has changed something in their printing process to fix the foils, and the trade-off is these people, the new people learning the curve or whatever, right? We don't know.
From like design so I own a toy company, and I know have general idea on like printing schedules, and that's my day job, and then knowing from public statements from Wizards like how long set development takes and when they start having to lock sets before it goes into print, and like how long ago it was they finished a set. Like all signs point to the graphic design lockdown of this set happening like a year ago exactly, when you're all like learning for the first time how to work from home, and like webcams were going for $1,000 a pop because there was
reasonable.
So like from that perspective, I'm like more forgiving here than I would be with like the Secret Lair foiling issues or whatever.
Sure.
This is a quarantine set.
Yeah, the fact that this is releasing on time based on other stuff that I know that's going on in the world, like this Suez Canal being blocked, is like a miracle.
That's a good point.
That's something we hadn't talked about. We talked about sort of the distribution issues of a couple of the sets, including this one. Actually, come to speak of it. Within this, with their initial release because of pandemic issues, but you're right. We're now hitting the sets where the design of them, the development of them, was heavily impacted by the lockdown. So that actually is something to keep in mind over the next 2 to 3 Magic sets. Right, the next 6 months is that these people were all working from home and learning how to design Magic sets from home without in-person playtesting while they were doing it. So that will be interesting to see if we have more issues like this.
I'd be more worried other than the fact that we found out that Innistrad only had 8 total drafts before they launched it.
That was quite a nugget
that was
of
a cool tweet. That was a fun tweet.
I was like, oh, damn. Okay, I guess the best limited format of all time was made on the fly.
Oh, but here's the question. Do you think it's actually the best limited format of all time, or do you think it was just so much better than everything around it? Because I think
no,
that
Innistrad was legitimately very good.
RTR was a
Of
very
course.
good limited format too.
yeah, and
It's
so
also-
have been 5 of the past 7 sets they've released. Like they've upped their limited game massively. You
I'm
know,
a
does
big
Innistrad
fan
compare to the new ones?
I am a big fan of Graveyard Matters mechanics, so I'm a biased person here. Like Ultimate Master is my favorite master set. Like all the sets where you're like using that as a secondary resource actively. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons RTR was so good is because Golgari was doing the same, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
I'm here for discarding cards and playing those cards out of my graveyard for value. So like that added to the fact that it's already one of the best. Like Khans of Tarkir is also one of the best ever, and
Yep.
that has a similar delve self-mill kind of situation.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that the other thing that the formats we're talking about here have going for them is the ability to kind of mix and match archetypes a little bit. That was certainly obviously true in cons, but I think Zendikar Rising, for instance, was one of the best designed limited sets in a very long time, and I honestly think I'd put it up there in the tier of Innistrad Draft. And I guarantee you they put a lot more work into that format than they did Innistrad Draft. That was a crazy 8 times ever. That's nuts.
Because people didn't want to play double face cards. Like, I don't like this.
They're probably very annoying when they're written on pieces of paper, right?
Yeah, fair.
But okay, let's get back to Strixhaven for a minute. Jazdy is $40. Is any chance? What are your all thoughts on this card and of course the backside?
Call Time has one $40+ card. It's Vorinclex.
Mm-hmm.
Valky for the borderless is like 30-ish, and Goldspan Dragon is like approaching 30. So you have like 3 $30+ cards in the last set, and that's like 100% on the basis of EDH. I don't think this is.
I mean,
Great.
Valky's a modern player.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Valky's everywhere. Card's great.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
card is not that.
Oh no, I mean this is a gold card that is overrated. I mean, like in constructed, the backside of this is worse than Scapeshift, and the one that puts lands from your graveyard into play that's worth $1. Maybe it's
Maybe
worth
Splendid Reclamation. I brewed that in standard, good
yeah,
sir.
yeah. I love that card. No, and I'm saying
Yeah.
this card is those cards are good cards. This card is comparable to those cards, making it a good card, but it's a $40 seems insane.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, I look, maybe people, and I'm not even going to remember the name of it. Jason, what's the new Ristic Study card out of Kaldheim that has infinite text on 2 different sides? This is that. People just saw it and they saw a bunch of words and they were like, maybe this is that card. And they just decided it was worth money. I mean, look, this one's also brand new in terms of us recording. This was one of in the later round of previews. So its price has got some time to settle for sure. But what about old Professor Liliana?
You were talking about Cosima. I'm the only person that calls Cosima Ristic Study. Everybody else argues with me.
Well, that's, I mean, I haven't even, look, I'm not going to say that I've read that whole card. There's a lot of words on it.
You draw a lot of cards.
Yeah. What about old Professor Onyx, Liliana, $30 Planeswalker.
6 mana Planeswalker.
Break CDH, though, Jason. Break CDH.
But worse than other Magecraft cards.
Yes.
Yes.
Like the Magecraft mechanic breaks Commander. That's a
It
different
does. It does. And Chain
or
of
just
Smog
that
breaks
one
it.
card that
Where's this Chain of Smog stuff when we could have done it with a Planeswalker that has existed for 3 years? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, you're talking about Rao?
Yeah.
You need exactly
Yeah.
Grixis though, right? Like that's the difference. Is like it's a Planeswalker, which is generally bad in Commander,
Yeah.
and it involves you to only play Grixis, which like as a person named Kess, all happy to do that. But that's very limiting. That's like not very. That's not
Yes.
most Commander.
I think Liliana got a lot of the hype, obviously, because it was like the first or second one they previewed. But it's not like there's a turn 2 legacy kill with Chain of Smoke. That might be a real. You can play the 1-drop creature, and then you can just kill people on turn 2 by playing Chain of Smog. So I think Liliana got a lot of boost because of that hype, even though it's not. It's sort of one of those things that where it'll spike a card, but it's not even the thing that ends up comboing with said card. So yeah, I mean, this is it. I don't even know if this is particularly, standard playable or anything like that. It's.
I mean, all of its abilities are good, right? Like for 6 mana, you're getting a lot for that, but it's not $30.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, Liliana Dreadhorde General was a 6-mana Liliana that, in my opinion, did a lot more than this. And
see, I like this more than that. I think.
Interesting.
I think that card
doesn't impact the board as hard.
Well, this one makes every opponent sacrifice a creature, right? And that one made you sacrifice 2 creatures.
It's each. The other one was each, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's each player.
Yeah. Liliana Dreadhorde General is also like $30.
But that's yes. Yeah. I think this Liliana Dreadhorde General is better in Commander. This card is better in constructed formats outside of Commander.
Well, you know what? You've got me interested because I play a historic deck with the Liliana in it, and now I might try this one out.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, they're both interesting. All right, let's just move right on to the next one, the next most expensive card, and we'll get these out of the way before we move on to just what we actually like and want to talk about. But Kasmina Enigma Sage, the 3-mana one, we talked about it in the past, but I'm kind of surprised that a good but still generic Planeswalker is pre-selling.
This card exists to make people like the point of college in it. Like it's a really meta thing because like the point of college is to make you feel smart. And like this card was put in the set to make people feel smart because people saw Kasmina and then they did a tweet where it's like Kasmina is from a set you will see soon, and they're like, she's a sage, she's a teacher, she's gonna be in Strixhaven, and then they spoon fed the little like airplane into your mouth, and they're like, yes, she is. You were right, Magic player, you called it.
I am
so,
MTG Ryan.
That's why this card is in the set. The design's cool. Like the card's cool.
But it's just a cool Planeswalker, right?
I like letting my Teferi scry 1 on everybody's turn.
I think this is the best of the 3 cards we talked about. I think this is the only one because like this allows you with Teferi to do her -8 at instant speed, so you can like counter spells with the Planeswalker.
It also allows you to plus your Narset to scry.
Yep. Yeah. Or like ultimate, just like some Planeswalkers, you can +2 the turn they come into play to then ultimate the next turn versus like it.
You can just like doubling season certain walkers, right? You play a walker with doubling season that comes in with 10 loyalty, and you use her alt.
The problem with doubling season always, at least in constructed, obviously Commander is different. Commander, the balance is that Planeswalkers are bad. In constructed, it's that like doubling season is a 5-mana enchantment that you die at the turn you cast it because it doesn't do anything.
Yes, I am not advocating for this in Modern by any means.
You cast it on turn 3 and you went on turn 4.
Yeah, I think on Kasmina regular could work in Modern, right? It's a 3-mana Planeswalker that -1s to protect itself, and then the next Planeswalker you follow up with, like, works differently, like Narset or Teferi or whatever, just like doesn't have the same math anymore, and those cards were balanced to like have their math. So it makes sense that she's the blue-green Planeswalker. She makes you do math.
It's very, very powerful. Don't know, obviously about $30. That's we really, in the pandemic especially, we understand that the set is not likely. I mean, these cards are going to get played in standard, but no one we could bring on this podcast is going to predict to you which of these cards is going to be expensive, because it's just not where standard's at. Eternal formats like Modern are not dead in the water, so to speak, but certainly on hiatus. So we wanted to kind of focus this week around Commander. So that's what we're going to do. And speaking of this next card, this is your Golgari, not Golgari card. 7-mana instant, Harness Infinity, 3 black, 3 green, and a generic. Exchange your hand in graveyard, then exile this card.
Cool.
This seems
like a.
I don't understand how this is worth money. Yeah. Isn't Eerie Ultimatum sort of a similar thing, except it's more like put your entire graveyard onto the battlefield? Like these 7-mana interact with your graveyard cards, to me, are almost a dime a dozen at this point.
And you only get to keep 7 of them.
Yeah. Well, it's an instant at least, so you could burn.
It doesn't. I didn't even realize that, but I would expect this to have a Praetor's Council modifier of like ignore hand size for rest of game, and the fact that I guess it's instant, so you do it at the end of their turn, then you combo. But like this is bad.
This seems to me like possibly the most.
I'm sure someone's gonna like make a really like.
I mean, maybe, but like this is a Commander card to me, and it's a medium one. I don't like
to talk about cards that like. I don't know, are suspicious, but like seem bad.
I'll say it.
I'll call it the most overpriced card in the set. I'll go out there.
it'll do cool things that are unfun, and so people won't play them.
Perhaps.
Right? Like
yeah.
if someone's gonna break it, it's gonna be really cool that one time, and like a few people will play that deck, but it's mostly gonna be like weird graveyard discard storm, and then they're like, oh, this is exhausting.
I wish this card exchanged your deck in your graveyard.
Yes. I like spent a flight from Hong Kong once
would be
thinking that Phyrexian Obliterator, not Obliterator. What's the not Phyrexian? What's the
combo one, the 6/6 or
6/6/4/4. I thought it made your library and graveyard switch or whatever, and so I spent an entire flight from Hong Kong thinking that's what it did, brewing this amazing deck that like put thousands of Ensigns into my graveyard and won on turn 2.
Inverter, by the way, that's what the
card is. And I looked at it, I was like, oh.
Inverter of Truths, I believe.
Yes,
is that
Inverter of
card.
Yeah.
Well, they put it right there in the title.
Yeah.
They inverted the truth on you, and you just didn't even catch it.
I know.
But yeah, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh card that is very banned that does that effect, where it's like, if you have at least 15 cards in your graveyard, swap your deck in your graveyard. It's very banned for a lot of reasons.
How banned is it?
Seems powerful.
It was banned quicker than most other Yu-Gi-Oh cards get banned, and that was in like the early 2000s. But
that means what? It banned the thing in like 3 days. I don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh works, but that's my impression.
They hadn't even sent the packs out.
But I wish this card did that, because I don't even think that would be broken with this mana cost.
I agree.
It'd just be like a cooler effect.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're at the point in my play group, at least, where a couple different people play Aerial Ultimatum decks, and it already just elicits a groan because of how powerful it is at 7 mana. And this is just like, in my opinion, not as powerful as that, and also not even as exciting as that. And it's just like, cool. This isn't Golgari. Well, you gave us a Golgari Mythic. Why? Like, but let's talk about what we do like. What has stood out? Kess, we'll let you go first. Your guess. Is there anything from this set that really stands out to you that you do like and are looking forward to playing with?
Yeah, I think the big one is, I mean, then going back to Lorehold, as much shit as we talk. Oh, can I swear on the podcast? I forget.
Of course.
Okay,
Fuck
cool.
yeah, we can.
As much shit we were talking about Lorehold at the beginning. I think the fact that I think how much different stuff that they've given the red, white the ability to do, and both colors the ability to do, is like game changing almost across the board, right? Like there's like just the amount of if you look at the 7 red white commanders printed in this set versus every other one ever
for the last 10 years.
30 years. How long is Magic? They don't get better as you get older. Is like just game changing on its own, right? Like people were like obsessed with Feather because it's the only good red white commander.
Yeah, it did something different, you know?
Yeah, just like Plarg being a looter that gives you access to red white is game changing. So I'm like, that's the big, as far as commander goes, especially the thing I'm most excited by is just like how many different deck building options there are. And then add the layer of the commander set they talked about today. There's like just so many different directions you can go into. And then just all the stuff white gets to do, right? Like this is the first set where they I keep saying where they heard us. And when everyone a year ago was white's bad, it's boring, it doesn't do anything, and they're like, okay, here's every idea we have all in one.
Yeah, and Jason
set your Google Calendar for 365 days. Yep. Set your Reddit reminders for a year from now.
Yeah. Well, Jason was worried about them killing white, by making it too overpowered, killing it as being fun and just making it a bunch of smothering tides. So Jason, how are you look on the sort of the Lorehold cards now that we've seen the whole set and bits of the commander? I think
they printed a smothering tithe. They printed another smothering tithe. In fact, they printed the card that should have been smothering tithe in the first place.
Which one are you talking about?
The card is called Monologue Tax. Monologue Tax says whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. That should have been Smothering Tithe. They should have just done that instead of Smothering Tithe.
I agree with you.
Ways.
Yeah.
Or Smothering Tithe are templated when the opponent draws their second card each turn.
That's
you
what
make
it
a
should have
treasure
been.
token
Yeah.
they can't pay. Because the did you pay the 2 is dumb. Nobody
This
likes
seems
that.
More fair though, because you just don't cast your second spell.
Well, this is much more fair, but this is a good, in my opinion, this is a good direction. But the thing is, we were worried if they would just make white broken per se, but I think this has the potential to be a game changer in sort of the history forward of Magic, right? I don't know what year you would trace it to for green, But whenever green started getting, whether it's the new fight cards, the way they started pushing that stuff, or when they started getting card draw, or when red got its light up the stages, those really set a tonal shift in how those colors were designed across the board. And it's possible that that's what we're seeing here with red white. And they use this opportunity, knowing that Boros is one of the more straightforward guilds, that we're really going to switch it up. And who knows, like maybe this is what, maybe we think of red white as being Boros stuff. Maybe in 5 years, this is what a new player thinks red white is.
Well, white got a bunch of blue cards in this set. Secret Rendezvous is a blue card. Bavinda Student's Advocate is a blue card.
Mm-hmm.
I look at a card like Strict Proctor and I'm sort of like, I think they're close to nailing white. I hope they don't go too far the other direction. I like Strict Proctor.
Yeah,
the 1/3 flyer, whenever permanent enters the battlefield and causes a triggered ability, it gets countered unless they pay 2. I like this better than like a Torpor Orb, just because it still lets people play Fair Magic, but it shuts down Unfair Magic.
I think you want to be careful though of like what, and this is what they did here, right? Where white was good at making it so other people didn't get to have fun playing Magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And attacking, and like so in Commander, the former is the thing that it was best at, but no one wants to do that, and so
it was Armageddon's and Friends
and Hate Bears, right? It's
Thalias,
Armageddon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like here is that they did look at blue and red and other stuff and black, like all the Reanimator stuff, and see what can white do that's different and new. I also think that, going back to what you said before, I think it was Innistrad. Like, I think it was Faithless Looting and Blasphemous Act were like the beginning of red being cool. And then that was followed by Duretti, right? Like those 3 cards created the world of red doing cool stuff.
You're right, absolutely. Duretti was kind of not a game changer per se, but this is what
it was the first time you could sit down with a mono red commander and not get laughed at.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because then they're like, oh, we could use space to develop Felden, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then white, I feel like Lorehold is that beginning for white, right?
Hopefully,
there's a couple really weird ones though. Like Secret Rendezvous is obviously like the biggest gap from flavor win to just horrid unplayability. It's literally a divination for your opponent.
It's an odd one, yeah.
You mean your new friend at the table? Or you hull breacher them. You're like, I will Secret Rendezvous hull breacher you. Like,
but there's other white cards that can do that without being bad without those cards. Like there's already cards that draw everybody at the table cards.
Well, it's a start.
Play those too, DJ.
And one, I don't need to be defensive about Secret. I mean, this card's not playable, but like I don't hate you.
Well, they also I think it was in the most recent set, they I don't remember the name of the card, but it's exile target on-land permanent. That person's controller may put a permanent from their hand into play, and that's a very cool card to me. That has a what's it called card? That is a Mystical Archive card. This set that is one of the Mystical Archives.
That was one where they thought they were making a big banger, and I
mean they kind of are, right? It scales very differently. It's a card that goes from being pretty bad and limited to being very good later on. And that's sort of the opposite of white's sort of attacks effects are good early and better and worse late. It kind of inverts that a little bit. So I like the direction they went.
Well, it's just a much worse path, because path is like bad early and good late.
Yeah,
like
that's also true. Yeah, it could have just been path.
But like Detention Vortex is the other just like weird. Like white got so many cool things, but Detention Vortex is straight unplayable in every format. It's the arrest, but they can get rid of it for 3 mana, so it's bad.
Yeah, it is bad.
That's in limited. That effect has been in limited forever, right? Like there's been like a weird arrest variant that you could pay to get out of.
Well, and for what that's worth, Heliod's whatever, the thing that the enchantment that does this, and they can tap it 4 times to get rid of it, actually does see constructed play for what it's
That one's good though. I'm not saying like arrest variant whatever is bad. I'm saying this one is really bad.
Yeah, I don't like this one much. But.
It's a bad cowed by wisdom.
But it's like a limited card, right? Like
yeah.
Like what and some of it, and we're pointing under the card from Kaldheim, the white one is like, let's try stuff, and if we try it in bad limited cards, then it doesn't matter.
Yes.
This card's game breaking because a 2-mana like in limited, I'm not going to lose sleep about it before we print some like a creature that does this, that then has like legitimate play. And then so I want them to try new things, and I like that these new things because the thing to your guys' point earlier, which was they could push white and break it, right? They could make all Magic suck because white is too powerful. I think if the community on Twitter or at large was in charge of designing Magic, that is what would happen. There's like every card to draw cards, every effect I've ever dreamed of should be white. Wizards, on the other hand, was like, no, wait. If you're going to draw cards, it's only going to be planes. and then
Endless Horizons.
Let us try things. I think my complaint for white has always not been that it hasn't been powerful. It's that its card advantage engines don't have card variety attached to them in Commander, so they're boring. It's like blinking or reanimating like Sun Titan or whatever, which means that every time you get advantage, you're just doing the same thing again, or you're killing your opponent's creatures with a board wipe. All of it is a net less stuff happening that's different. And I like that this set is starting the process of maybe getting a little bit more card flow or just like stuff that's new in these colors.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to touch on one that I like here, and you all can tell me what you think about it. But Strixhaven Stadium. It's a 3-mana stadium card. Feel like I'm playing Pokemon. Tap, add a generic, put a point counter on it whenever a creature does combat damage to you. Remove a point counter whenever a creature you control does combat damage. Put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then if it has 10 or more, remove all of them, and the player you dealt combat damage to loses the game.
Can't you just win the game? Why does it have to lose somebody the game? They've gotten away from you in the game and towards that player loses. Those effects suck, dude. It's hard enough to get this to go off. Just let the guy who caught the golden snitch win the goddamn game. I
don't completely disagree with you.
From a fun perspective, I agree too, right? It sucks if I just am dead and the rest, and because that's an effect also that you have to like earn. So if this kills someone, the chance that the other two players are losing anytime soon is low. And so I'm just out and I have to go, I guess.
And if you're focusing one person, the other two players have no incentive to hit you and take the points away.
My counterpoint to this was I don't think this card was designed for Commander. I think it was designed for 60 card casual.
Sure. But like,
interesting. Okay. I mean,
I don't think this set was designed for Commander. You look at a lot of stuff really scales poorly in ADH.
I think it was made for Commander. If it wasn't, it would just say you win the game. Like them moving it to you
That's
don't
what I think so
win the
too.
game. It was to make it so it's not like because this in a stacks deck could be maybe problematic in Commander if it was everyone loses.
Well, I think the idea is that behind and we're just talking about their design philosophy here, but I think the idea is that you win the game effects tend to not be a lot of fun. So what is the in between, between not winning the game and winning the game?
Yeah.
It's make somebody else lose the game.
It
gates it with combat damage.
I didn't even think about this in a stacks deck. You just play this in like Olaro or like some kind of like Duretti prison, and you just like chokehold everyone out, and you tap it 10 times, then you ping them with a flyer, and then you win. Like that's bad. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So you play like a flying man deck with this, and you have bridge or ensnaring bridge in play. Just like I can attack my 1/1 flyers that are unblockable, and you are all going to lose, and I'm going to win. And goodbye.
So what I'm hearing is you all don't love this card, and therefore maybe don't think it's $10.
I think this card is really cool.
It's pre-sale prices. Stop. You're not Reddit. You're not a Reddit comment. Stop pretending not to know how pre-sale prices work.
People are paying it though.
Stop pretending not to know how this works.
I'm not saying it won't go down. I'm saying I'm surprised.
You're not some Twitter person who has a
just
YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers. Stop pretending not to know how fucking pre-sale prices work, DJ.
I know how they work, and I know that a card like this, if I was Star City or whatever, and if I was Ben Blyweiss, I would pre-sell this at like 3 and pray to God it sold.
But I'm using this to gauge what you all think. I mean, look, DJ sounds like DJ thinks it's near bulk rare status. It sounds like
sell
it's
a Magic card for $3. War Elephant from Arabian Nights is $10. This can be $10. War Elephant was reprinted in Chronicles, and it's a common, and it's $10. Magic cards are expensive now. Everything is expensive. I sold a set of collector's edition for $2,500 in like 2015, and now there are 7 cards in a collector's edition box that are worth more than $2,500 a piece. So Magic cards are expensive now. This can be $10 pre-sale because
hot
who
take.
cares?
Cool. I also think this card is like has a lot of things that are going for it to make it more than $3, right? Like it's Quidditch, the card. So like
It is.
beyond like every person who likes Harry Potter still or like deep down still likes it, like this is a card made for them. So like that has like flavor reasons people want to know. B, it's a mana rock that can go in any deck. So on top of that, there are people that want 5 of these. There are people that like if you're going to play it, it's playable. Its effect is also not bad. It's not fun maybe and that's not. I do think it is fun, right? Like on paper this card sounds real like a blast to play with. The end state of someone getting removed early sucks, but so I think like people are drawn to this card. I think this card like on paper sounds like it would sell for $10. I don't know if it'll stay there. I think in fact I know this won't stay there, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of gauging that, you know, it's one of the cards that is in the top half of the rares of the set, at least. And I didn't know it was going to bring out quite this much reaction, but I did think it was a card worth talking about.
Can we get it?
Because of its gameplay
There
aspect.
are no Kaldheim non-mythics above $10. I just like.
Can we get this as a plane chase plane?
Yeah, right? It's literally a stadium card.
Isn't
from
this
Pokemon.
Battle Bond? Like, isn't...
Yeah. This is a
will say,
lot
like,
of... Yeah.
as far as colorless underrated cards, and it's still expensive, but it is a rare. Like Wandering Archaic seems like the real deal.
I love Wandering Archaic. I wrote about 8 cards from Strixhaven. I can't wait to play on Cool Stuff Inc. Go to coolstuffinc.com and access my article. Wandering Archaic, I said, was one of the most 75% cards in the set. I love it. I don't know if it's $11, but I do know that it's in some decks.
All right, let me read this one real quick to people. On the front side, it's a 4/4 for 5. It's colorless. It's an avatar. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell and choose new targets. That's nice. The backside, 3 mana, colorless sorcery. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land and or instant or sorcery, puts them into their hand, and then gains 3 life.
Fun fact, this is a 75% card because 75% of his hands are outstretched.
Wow. You're absolutely
All right,
right.
Quandrix. Jesus.
That makes me so sad.
Love that.
Jason, I think you're right, because you say that right because it's as good as your opponent's deck, right?
Well, plus, if someone's like, I have like 1 Krosan grip and there are 2 things I want to get rid of, you're like, well, what if you got rid of them both? Like, this helps the pull the table in line with the best player.
I like
This
that
helps
too.
everyone bring the best player in line with the table, I think.
Just
I
on a
overlooked this one.
weird
That's
note.
great.
Does Krosan Grip work here?
Not capable.
triggered
It doesn't
ability.
matter. Whatever.
Yes, it does. Triggered abilities still trigger.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's a card with a great pedigree, right? You have Rhystic Study and Mana Type, or not Mana Type, whatever.
All kinds of
Vomiting
effects like
Gold.
it, yeah.
Smothering Tide.
Smothering
Tide. And like in its world, and it's colorless. It can go in any deck. So like I think that's more part of its price tag is just like it's playable everywhere and has versatility, because worst case scenario, if you can't spend the 5 mana, you can spend the other half of this card.
Yeah.
And if you're like mana screwed and you didn't get there, and then when it's in play, like it gains a lot of value very, very quickly.
This is on my list of cards I want to get cheap 2 months from now.
Yes.
Because this card is unlikely to really be a standard player or whatever, but you're absolutely right that this card...
This is a Rishkar's expertise level of like...
Well, yeah, well, and it plays really... It actually, just Jason's right, it plays well in Commander in a fun way that helps make the game more enjoyable. Plus, it's colorless. Plus, it has a backside for no reason at all, except that this is what we do with Magic cards today, which I'm not complaining about. And you get this down, even when things are bad, you get to cast to explore the vast lands and go get yourself multiple cards, right? It can even be a 2-for-1 because you can pull 2 things.
I'll be honest, I don't even know what the back of this card does.
It's just a filtering effect for 3 mana that digs everybody into their deck a little bit, and you can dig your lands out. It just gives you something to do if you can't get to 5 mana to cast it. So it's just a bonus to an already good card.
How does everyone feel about body of research?
Do not care.
Ooh.
What
Wow.
was it
I don't know
LSV was saying? Like, would anybody care about a 2-mana 13/13 with no abilities? Like,
Well,
right?
we had a conversation on the podcast. It's like, how cheap could a 2020 no abilities be? And
Right.
like, is it too like
Pretty cheap.
4? I think we landed on 4, and it's like still not modern playable.
I
Yeah.
think 4. Yeah. I mean, 4 or 5 is the line. 3 to 5 for sure.
A
But-
6-mana 100/100 creature kind of like sounds cool, but
Well, I think one of the things people like about it is the fact that it's +1/+1 counters more than power and toughness. That because you can win
You can
with
mutate it.
Simic Ascendancy just out the gate, and then move it with Ozolith or do other weird shenanigans, like go to the bar shenanigans. And
Yeah,
then-
what's the Golgari commander that like Rayhan or whatever?
yeah, it's Rayhan.
yeah, doubles the counters, the companion one, so you can play that and just like
So you play a
shove it
really boring
like
Rayhan and what's the mofo Thrasios?
I don't know, play Shakashima. Then you got 2 Rayhans,
That is. Yeah.
and then you can get a 5. Wait, is it 400, or I guess it'll be like 360.
I'm with Jason. I just don't care about this card at all.
You can
This is
get
gonna be worth a bunch of money, I think.
Also,
long-term.
just to clarify, like you have to count the cards in your library, which in most cases means counting the cards not in your library. But it's
Do
like
some
a
math.
lot of work. Why not just make this thing a 75/75?
Because it's the Math Guild.
This is
Yeah.
horrible.
Counting
They really
is
hit the
not
flavor.
math.
They really hit the flavor out of the park. I have to spend 3 minutes counting all my cards, and then
If it's taking you
recounting
3
my
minutes to
cards.
count 20 cards, then you didn't get accepted to Strixhaven.
Well, what do you do? Like, think if somebody plays this turn on like turn 8 or 9, you may have 2 different players who control one of your things. You've got a graveyard pile, an exile pile, a hand, a big stack of lands.
You
Like,
just say,
it's
I have
just
a big
work.
boy.
It
You just
just
say, I have a
works.
big boy, go.
I'm
I
sorry,
keep
I'm not
doing
listening
this
to
one.
what you're saying because I'm thinking about Corbin and Strixhaven just talking in the cafeteria about how he took the mascot away from Blake Griffin. I don't.
Oh, I would go to class some of the time for sure.
Oh,
Okay.
put another counter on Strixhaven Stadium. I just took the mascot away from Blake Griffin.
We're going. It would be the snitch. I stole the snitch right out from.
Isn't that the game where it's the mascot ball or whatever?
No, man. Are you talking about the quaffle?
I think he's talking about the actual in-game
I'm not talking about
Strixhaven
Harry
game.
Potter because I'm not a transfer.
Like, there's an actual in-game, like the game that is played at Strixhaven Stadium. There's like a real lore game. It's
Oh,
called-
really?
It's
I
like
didn't
Mage
even know
Tower or
that.
something.
I actually looked at this card and I was like, this is such a blatant, like, they said they went to such great lengths to distinguish this from Harry Potter, and then it just looks like Quidditch. I didn't know there was
it's
an
not
actual
the,
game
like,
they had.
Well, no, like
I
every...
only looked at a couple cards. There's like, it's called Mascot Exhibition. There's like Intercept the Mascot or something like that. I don't even.
Yeah, like there's... It's not Quidditch. Like every mage school trope has like their sport, like from whether it's
sure.
Ruby
I
or
think you,
like
I think you get
every
points for
school
taking the other school's
ever has
mascot,
sport,
which is
right?
whatever. Right?
Is the mascot not the person in the costume? Because
No,
they
they
get enough
summon-
abuse
They
already.
summon an Inkling token, a
element,
red and
Inkling.
white spirit, or a 4/4 blue and red elemental, or a fractal. Right?
Each college has that token, and the token is
Yeah.
the same, and those are
Alright.
the 5 mascots.
I believe
Yep.
you. That's what I have to say about this.
I don't care about lore. I just happen to look at the card mascot exhibition.
No, absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
also
All right.
why those are the tokens you see on every card.
That makes.
Yes.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, all right. So, what else stands out to you all from this set that we haven't touched on yet? Anything really, looking cool or what?
The commands.
You like them?
I like Witherbloom a lot. The fact that in Dredge it's a main deckable graveyard hate card is like
Mm-hmm.
like very nice, and it like mills yourself and like is versatile. I also like the red white one for less eternal formats.
Mhm.
So like standard historic, just like that card says a lot of really powerful things on it. It's like a flash flame tongue Kavu that can draw you 2 cards, that can lightning helix a thing to death. Like every ability on it does 3 things. It's cost 5 mana, which is the most expensive like play. Well, Austere Command sees play. So I don't know. It's the all 5 commands, not all 5 of them. I think the stinker when we reviewed them
Silver
was the white black one.
Yeah.
It-
Mhm.
It's just a bad Caius Guile, right?
The thing about it, just Silver Quill, it doesn't scale into EDH well, but
But
I don't
it's
know.
a sorcery speed version of the blue-white one that's not playable.
Yeah.
But the other ones are dope. Red-white ones, the blue-red one's interesting because it's worse than Call Against Command, but it's in different colors and not always playing black or and like it's a better Is It command that is worse than Call Against Command, and I don't know where that lies on the playability scale.
Well, Is It Charm is come back to be playable in different formats, so that may not be such a bad place to live in.
Is It Charm Is It Charm is always the card that you put in your deck early on in a cool new deck's life cycle. You don't know what's good, and this card is always good, and then you learn what cards are good, and then you remove this card.
that's really accurate, actually. I mean,
it's the training wheels.
Yeah, because it does everything, and there's occasionally decks where the loot really makes sense as an option. But you're right; it tends to get cut after a while.
Like Art Light Phoenix showed up in Modern. Every deck was playing Is It Charms, and then they realized, oh, these other cards are better with Arc Light Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I'll not play Is It Charm, but it was a great pool floaty.
I like that. All right.
Speaking of pool floaties, what do you guys think about Dragon's approach? Do we think that is the next Relentless Rats?
Yes.
Kind of Seven Dwarfs type thing.
I mean, it made Thrumming Stone spike to $75. So
they made what?
Thrumming Stone spiked to $75.
I mean, everything
on the day
makes
it was
Thrumming Stone
previewed
to $75.
I think that this card is that, and it's a common, so it's more likely to be a breaking bulk. But here's what I know. I know that Relentless Rats carried this banner for forever and was always a pick. And more so than a pick, it was like $4 or $5 or whatever at one point back in the day. I remember picking them at that point. So since then, we got Persistent Petitioners, $2. We got the zombie. We got Seven Dwarfs, $2. We got the zombie one. It's like $8 or whatever it is.
The demon, the
yeah, whatever the black one is called. And now this is a red one, and I think the fact that it the first part of it doesn't do much, but there will absolutely be people who want to put their Dargans into play with Dargan's approach, and that's what they're going to do. And this card will be 50 cents, and then it'll be $1, and that's where it'll be $1 to $2. 4 years from now, probably, right? Like, I think that they thus far have not sort of run this well dry. Like, they can keep going back to this design, and it's going to work for a while.
It's also like it's a better card type. Like 3 mana, 3 damage to a creature, or right? Or is it?
It's just opponent.
Each opponent.
It's just opponent.
Oh, it's each opponent.
Each opponent.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, I thought it was to a creature. Never mind.
No, the thing is, it's just like I said. We until they make one that isn't worth money, I'm going to assume that they're all going to be worth a few dollars.
What's the average price of the Dragons of Tarkir Elder Dragons?
Like 6.
6. Okay. All right.
Like so the average price is like 6. Dramoka's $1 million, and like Kolaghan's bad. So like
Kolaghan's worth money too, though, is it not?
It doesn't do its ability in EDH because you can only have one copy, but like it's still actually not that bad as just a flying hasty dragon.
And it gives all your other creatures chase. I mean, Dragon Lord Kolaghan is $7 and rising. To be honest,
so the average price is probably like 10 or 12.
Yeah, so pretty good prices to answer your question.
Guys like legit, and then Dramoka's legit in Commander, and then there's a fifth one. What's the fifth one? Oh, Silumgar's dope. I love Silumgar.
Yeah, that one's good too.
I don't know how much he's worth, but he's like good in Commander. Stealing Planeswalkers ultimates all day long. So like, I think those are good cards to look at in regards to the Elder Dragons that are printed in this set. And like they will all drop, not all of them, because one of them will see standard play. I don't know which one, but it'll happen.
Right.
Most of them will drop down below that $10 mark, and that's the time to buy them, because like they're all cool commanders. The green-black one's dope. That's probably the most broken one and will be the one that'll always be expensive. But otherwise, I think like people like Elder Dragons, people like creature type Elder, like everything about them reads like good pickups once they go down.
I like that.
I have a pop quiz for you all. I have a Strixhaven pop quiz for everyone here.
Okay.
So
I will
not
fail, but
like
go
for
on.
the first names of the dragons, not the last, like not the guild name, not Lorehold or whatever. So if you look at the first names of each of the dragons,
Okay.
which one is worth the most Scrabble points?
Oh, I want to find these dragons now. All right, let's see here. Let me. I love me some Scrabble.
Are we excluding like the 50-point bonus for using all your tiles?
Yes.
It's called a bingo.
Really? Is that the official name? Oh,
This is, we don't have time to get into this. We may do an after hours on it. I covered the North America Scrabble Championships one year. I streamed it, so I learned a whole bunch about tournament Scrabble.
I would guess it's Shadrix or Valamakis, just from quantity of mid-tier letters like V and M. The other one had an X in it, but that's, I don't know. I'm not here to be an expert on this.
Is it Galadrix or Galazeth, the blue-red one?
Oh, there's a Z.
And a G. A G is worth a fair amount, right?
4 points?
I think it's a 4-pointer.
If we're, yeah. Do we have an answer?
I mean,
No, I'm
Velomachus
just
is just...
curious.
Beladros.
Oh, you don't have an answer? What? I got so excited because I'm a trivia god. JJ, link to the trivia god stuff right here, right now, right there. And you don't have an answer?
I thought of this on the fly, man.
Oh, well, come back next week and we'll look it up. I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
actually.
fans of Corbin
AJ,
definitely watch the trivia thing. He really shows off as a trivia god.
JJ,
First person to answer this correctly in the YouTube comments without cheating, I'm going to send a pack to.
What do you
There
mean?
you go.
Just define cheating.
how do you know what cheating is? Looking it up.
It's an honor system.
It's like, but
Like,
you,
if I had to,
The internet.
if I had to guess, I think it's Velomachus because I think the
so.
U and the V, I think, get there. In addition to like the length.
it's one of the longer ones too.
I don't. That's a lot of 1 and 2 point letters in that word.
Only 3 of them are 1 point. C and S are 1 point. Is M isn't right? M's a
I mean,
three.
what is the vowels are like 2 points, right? This is a
There,
Scrabble
it's
podcast
10 letters
now.
long, so you
Vowels are
couldn't play
one.
the V on a triple letter score, could you?
You could if you had the other letters to.
Hey, I'm not I
Piggyback on.
never did Scrabble commentary, so I don't really know what a Scrabble board
Yeah.
looks
I
like.
do-
I got you. Don't worry.
I do think it's interesting. So we after Dragons interviewed Gavin, and he kind of brought up one of the things that they were paid a lot of attention to that obviously did not happen here was to make sure all of the dragon names
Mm-hmm.
for the groups were not good enough to replace the Ravnica guilds. Like they made sure all of them, like Colligon and whatever, were like difficult to
Yeah.
say in some way
Yeah.
or weird, so that they didn't get branded. And I think they did that here, but instead of doing it for the group, because they want everyone to be like, I'm a Lorehold, I'm a Prismari. They did it to the first name so that people didn't accidentally start calling all of these Velomachus.
Right. Well, and you're right. I think they want people to identify with Lorehold separately from Boros, right? And they want, I mean, not that they got there, but they want Quandrix to be different than than Simic. They want people.
Quandrix is exactly Simic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I think people play differently. They also said in like the art design article today that like it was the one that they had be different, and then it ended up just like not working, and so they just went back to safety mode and ended up being.
I don't care. They gave us Zamone, and Zamone can go in 3 of my decks.
Oh, Zamone, dope. I'm all here for Zamone. Also, I think like Simic had the loosest. They like reinvented Simic between the first and the second set, right? And like the only thing it kept is weird card creature types.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was still +1/+1 counter.
Like,
Sure.
It
was
been
Evolve and Graft and Evolve.
yeah.
That's fair.
Draft, Evolve, and then I'm trying to think of.
But like Eureka Moment is.
Oh, and then Adapt.
good.
And then Adapt. It was another counter based.
Yeah.
Counters are
Which is
literally
like-
Simic.
Better monstrous.
I think Adapt would have been insane for this. Like, I think that they're mad they used Adapt because Adapt is a super cool math mechanic.
It is a great mechanic, honestly.
So they did say they didn't want to do the like 5 mechanics, 1 per each guild. And there's
I
like,
like
some
that,
cards
though,
you can
yeah.
see, like Prismari has the like red blue hybrid discard a big card and make a treasure mechanic that like
Mhm.
looks like what their mechanic was, and then they decided to not do that. There's like all the like,
Yeah.
we tried this was cool, and then we decided that just have Magecraft and learn, be the mechanics. And
Well, this might be a controversial take, and we're going to run out of time here, but I think that designing 5 color combinations around 5 different mechanics, named mechanics, is kind of lazy design. You shouldn't need one mechanic tying it all together to get across the flavor or story or whatever it is you're going with.
I'm glad they didn't, because every time
it would have created
I want them to feel the need to make
for the
10 brand new mechanics if we ever go back to Ravnica.
Exactly.
Just like you don't have to give us so many goddamn mechanics.
Right. If you can make Orzhov feel Orzhov without a mechanic, or if you can make, that's that idea. And I think that's what they've done here in a sense, right? Lorehold has, it feels like Lorehold, but doesn't necessarily have a single mechanic that's on every card that ties it all together,
I think that's a strength of the company at large, right? Like that's something that they were, because they've done much better before, at it, and it was bad. I'm I'm trying to think of good. I mean, Laurelwind Block in general kind of did that, right? Where like color pairs they did that because they were the tribes. I'm trying to think of a good example of like factions that didn't have mechanics tied to it that they didn't really pull off. I guess Ixalan is a good example, maybe. But this seems like they did it. They figured it out. They figured out the math on like by not having a mechanic, we can still make these colors feel. Gold also allows that better than if we were to pick other kind of ways of doing it, because every gold card is just like, oh yeah, that's a Prismari card. I don't have to think about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the final thing I'll say here is that I love what they have done design-wise over the past year.
This set is great design-wise.
I think so too.
I don't care much about the flavor, but like design is good.
The between the flavor, like the fact that DJ likes the designs even if he doesn't care about the flavors, it speaks to how good they've gotten at this, because I like the aesthetic of it and I like the cards, but I also liked Kaldheim and I think Zendikar, and as much as companions were broken, I liked Ikoria. I think the stuff that the design space they've explored over the past few years is stuff that 5 years ago I wouldn't have even thought was possible for Magic. Now everything's a double face card and it's fine.
Right.
And it's cool. So I'm big fan.
I think like I do love the world. I like kind of the Jason's point, like what this is alluding to has become problematic because people suck. The creator of the property is problematic. And this allows me, a person who was a massive fan of that property, to have something attached to a property I already love that fulfills all of those like needs, including like baselith high school tribalism, where it's like, oh yeah, Silver Quills suck, I'm a Lorehold, fuck those guys. Like, it's the best part of sports is that I agree. The Celtics, I don't know a single player on the Celtics, but I hate all of them for being a Laker fan. And so like that's what you get from this game, and I love that. And then the fact that they like tried doing new stuff with all the mechanics when they can, and like some of them they came a little bit short of, and some of them I think we'll get more of in gameplay versus like reading verbally what's on the cards. Right. Even like we didn't talk about Witherbloom, but Witherbloom playing in the like life gain, life loss space is different than Golgari. It's not necessarily different than black green.
It's color shifted from Orzhov for sure.
So that's a cool.
You're right. It's black green, but it's not Golgari.
Right.
It's like Shadowmoor.
Aesthetic, especially with like the tokens and I like a lot of what they did here. I'm really hyped. This is like the set I'm most excited by, probably since Ixalan, and it looks like it's going to be better than
Ixalan. Was a bit of a disappointment.
In the long run, this has gotten better. Where in Ixalan, like it was like, oh, I was so excited for dinosaurs versus pirates, and now it's not good.
And the limited wasn't great on Ixalan. Right. And
So hey, if you want a finance set review, here's the finance set review. There are only 7 cards in Kaldheim worth more than $10. Okay, good night.
Oh, this was the best set review ever.
Right? There are 7 cards in Kaldheim worth more than $10, and only one of them worth more than $30.
I had a lot more fun just talking about this set for this set review than I did trying to pin prices in a pandemic.
But like, it just, none of it matters. And collector boosters have done more to disrupt what the prices will be and should be than we could predict our way out of. Right. So there's my collector boosters, I guess that's what I'm doing. I don't know what to tell you.
there's going to be $100 like or $1,000 promos in every pack, right? And not every pack's going to have $1,000, but like every pack has a chance to open up one of the spell table, whatever, not spell table. What's the cards called?
Mystical Archive.
Oh, the Japanese foils. Yeah, that's what.
What are the English ones? Even the English ones are worth like a foil version of some of those cards is just worth a ton of money, and like that's going to make it so every other card in the set is worth nothing.
And it turns out that's what Wizards was trying to do all along: make you buy collector boosters. Make you buy collector boosters.
Like Battle for Zendikar had a chance in every box of opening up an expedition, and that made every single card in that set worth nothing. And this is in every pack.
And now it's every pack, every set.
Yeah. So you have a chance of getting a top spell of all time, and every pack has one, no matter what. And some of them will be foil, and some of them will be playable and the best of all time. And so why would any other card be worth money?
That's why we had fun talking about it for Commander. So everybody, thank you for listening. A reminder, if you want to see our picks of the week or our breakings bulk, you can do so on our spreadsheets that you have access to if you are a member of the Patreon, which you can do by joining at patreon.com/BSB. Alex, thanks so much for coming on the episode. Remind people again where they can find you across the internet.
Yeah, at Kess Wiley on like all social media, from TikTok to Twitter to Instagram, mostly TikTok and Twitter probably, and mostly Twitter, or just the MMcast. So youtube.com/MMcast, or we do Commander streams every Monday night. We'll be doing one later tonight that will live there forever with Glenn Jones, who's the design architect for all of Commander at Wizards, and Ellie of the Veil, content creator and writer for CFB, I believe,
and for Wizards. She's been making great content for coverage.
And then we have a packed lineup for the next couple of weeks, so we're super hyped. We have like Sheldon coming on, and we'll be doing our like brew off next week, so check out that stream. And then we do modern content / Magic content in general now, for the reasons we discussed. Haven't played Paper Modern in a year. And so we release that YouTube content every week, and then we have a podcast that gets like it's all launched at once every Monday. So youtube.com/TheMMcast.
All right, everybody. And while you're there, you can, of course, go to youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery and subscribe to us as well. Or as Jason would say, something with the bell icon. I don't remember exactly, but you'll know it when you think about it. So everybody, thanks for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. Enjoy Strixhaven, at least online. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next week.
Stay at detention.